Today's lesson is about multiplying and dividing integers. Your learning target says, I can develop and use the rules for multiplying and dividing integers to solve math problems. All right, on this slide, I would like you to explore a bit. I want you to copy this table in your notebook. Then, if you have to use a calculator, go ahead, but later that's going to be off limits. And what I really want you to do is look for patterns in the signs of your answers. So once you have this copied, pause me, fill it in, and then come back and we'll talk about patterns. All right, so when you filled it in, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Now, there are some interesting patterns going this direction. That's not really what I wanted you looking at, although you'll notice that there is a decrease in a factor of 4 each time, and that goes back to that you're taking one factor of 4 off. What I really wanted you to do was look at the signs of your answers. So for example, I have 2 positive numbers and my answer was positive. Then I had 2 more positive numbers and my answer was also positive. 2 more positive numbers and my answer was positive. But then look what happened when I added a negative number. I multiplied a positive and a negative and I got a negative answer. A positive and a negative created a negative product. A positive and a negative made a negative product. And so I'm wondering if the same thing applies when we divide. I want you to follow the same process on this slide. So you're going to copy the table in your notes. If you have to use a calculator, you may, although later it's going to be off limits. And again, we're going to look for patterns in your signs. So once you have this copy, pause me and then come back and we'll talk about patterns. Okay, so let's start filling in some answers. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 1 is 12. And then I tried to trick you because you cannot divide by 0, so there is nothing there. You should have gotten a divide by 0 error on your calculator. 12 divided by negative 1 is negative 12. 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. And 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Not necessarily the best pattern going this way, but I really wanted you to look across. So we had 2 positive factors that gave us a positive product. 2 positive factors, positive product. 2 positive factors, positive product. But then notice when we added a negative into the mix, when we had a positive and a negative factor, we got a negative answer. Same thing here, we got a negative answer. A positive and a negative gave us a negative answer. So I think we can make some rules for multiplying and dividing integers. This is the note page that I should have given you today in class. And so you're going to think about this sort of like one of those old-fashioned multiplication tables you had when you were a little person, where you multiplied or divided. Now, for some reason, this slide did not update the way that it should have. Let me cross this off so it matches what you have on your page for your notebook. This should be a plus. This should be a minus. This should be a plus. And this should be a minus. All right, so this box right here. If you have a positive times a positive, you're going to get a positive answer. Here, either multiplication or division, if you have a positive and a negative, you're going to have a negative answer. Then we have this box. That's where we have a negative and a positive, either being multiplied or divided together. We're going to get a negative answer. And the final box is If we have a negative times a negative or negative divided by negative, we will get a positive answer. So in short, if we have the same type of sign, we will get a positive answer, whether it's a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. If the signs are the same, you will get a positive answer. The only time you are going to get a negative answer is if you have opposite signs. So one is positive and one is negative, and you will get a negative answer. All right, we're going to practice. No calculators anymore. So let me write that on here. No calculators. But feel free to use that multiplication chart that you have on the inside front cover of your notebook. I want you to multiply these three, pay attention to your sign, and come back for checking. All right, let's deal with the numbers first. 12 times 4, that's 48. It looks like I have different signs. I had a negative 12 and a positive 4, so my rule says that's going to be a negative 48. On the next one, let's deal with the numbers first. 5 times 6, that's 30. And now let's think about our signs. A positive and a negative should give me a negative answer. And then finally, let's deal with numbers first. 7 times 3 is 21. Now let's look at the signs. They are both negative. If I have the same sign, I will have a positive answer. It's time for a story problem. I want you to write an expression for this story problem and solve it. It says, during a month-long drought, the amount of water in the family's well changed by -4 gallons a day. How much did the amount of water in the well change after 1 week? I would like you to pause me and go ahead and work it out and then come back ready for checking. All right, let's do this. So, I know it's changing by -4 every day for 7 days. That's how many days are in a week. And so when I multiply this, let's deal with our numbers first. 4 times 7 is 28. And then let's think about our sign. We had a negative and a positive. Those are different. So my answer is -28, and my label is gallons. All right, let's do the same thing with division. Again, I don't want you to use any calculators, so no calc, but feel free to use a multiplication chart out of the front of your notebook. Now, as I'm looking through these, I see I have a couple of typos. This should be a division sign, divided by, and this should be a division sign. So these should all be division problems. I apologize for not catching that earlier. All right, so what I want you to do is solve these and then come back when you're ready for checking. All right, let's start with the numbers. So we have a 50 divided by 10, that's 5. And then let's decide on our sign. It was a -50 and a +10. Those are opposite. And when I have one positive and one negative, my answer will be negative. All right, next one, we had a 27 and a 9. Let's just deal with the numbers first. 27 divided by 9 is 3. And then let's figure out our sign. So we had a +27 and a -9. And when we have different signs, our answer will be negative. All right, finally, we have a 35 and a 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5. I had a -35 and a -7. Those are the same sign. So when I have the same sign, I will have a positive answer. So my answer is simply 5. Time to try a story problem. A submarine descends at a rate of 60 feet each minute. How long will it take to descend to a depth of 660 feet below the surface? All right, I want you to go ahead and set this up and then solve, and when you're ready to come back for checking, come back. So go ahead and pause me now. Okay, let's try this one. So in a division problem, your total is your first number. So we know that it went 660 feet in all. And we know that is below the surface of the water, so that's a negative. And we're going to divide that by his rate of 60 feet each minute. Well, that's a 60, but he's going down under the ocean, so that's also a negative sign. So I have negative 660 divided by negative 60. So if we dealt with just the number part first, 660 divided by 60 would give us an answer of 11. And they're both negatives, so if I have two negatives, my answer is a positive. So it's going to take the sub 11 minutes. There's my answer. Okay, time for video question number 1. So remember, you're going to do this on a separate sheet of paper, not in your notebook. You're going to do your answers on the left and your work on the right, and you're going to turn this in tomorrow at the beginning of class. So would you take, for video question number 1, -8 times -9, and then when you're ready, come back for question 2. Video question number 2 says, the coldest temperature ever recorded in Rhode Island was 25 degrees below zero. Though Nevada lies much farther south, its coldest temperature was twice as cold as Rhode Island's. What was Nevada's record cold temperature? Pause me while you work this out. Come back when you're ready for question 3. Video question number 3 says, the value of a stock changed by -$3 a day for 4 days in a row. What was the overall change in value of the stock? Pause me while you work this out and then come back for question 4. Question number 4, divide -36 by -12. Pause, come back when you're ready for the last question. All right, last question. Over the past 7 days, Mrs. Cho found that the temperature outside had dropped a total of 35 degrees. Find the average change in temperature each day. All right, when you are done with this, put it someplace safe. You'll be turning it in tomorrow at the beginning of class.